The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
And welcome to On Cue. I'm your host, Eric Olson. Very glad you're with us this week. We have some amazing young people in our region, and today we get to meet some of them right here in the studio. Stay with us. Also, Austin Public Library Director Ann Hokanson is joined by Taryn Sims to talk poetry. And we'll also have a visit from Sonya Zieske from Albert Lea. She introduces us to some Geography B champions, Destination Imagination, and Knowledge Bowl competitors. And of course, we'll have our Vision 2020 update. It's all ahead here on Cue.
From KSMQ Television in Austin, this is On Cue, connecting interesting issues and interesting people. On Cue.
All right, class is in session. The IQ in this studio went up like about 100 points when these folks walked in, and we have some quiz questions for you from Knowledge Bowl. And we're not going to introduce the guests just now. They're here, they know the answers, but we're going to ask you the questions first and see how well you do. So listen in, we'll have these and we'll give them the answers to you in a little bit. All alkaloids contain what element that acts as a base? All alkaloids contain what element that acts as a base? Do you know the answer to that one? The CIA-funded airline Air America ended its work in Asia on a rooftop in what city? Do you know what city? And our last quiz question, in terms of pi, that's P-I, that's a math term. In terms of pi, what is the surface area of a 6-inch high cylinder with a 4-inch radius? I'm going to say that again. In terms of pi, what is the surface area of a 6-inch high cylinder with a 4-inch radius? Well, I have to tell you, I've forgotten most of these things, if I ever knew them at all when I was in school, but we have some wonderful academic achievers here from Albert Lea. They're joining us, and we're joined by Sonya Zieske from Albert Lea Area Schools. And let's introduce our contestants for today. Well, they're not contestants because they've already competed, and we're just going to talk about this, right? On my far right, wearing the blue over there, is Dan Gould, who's our Knowledge Bowl competitor. For Knowledge Bowl, we'll talk a little bit about what that is in just a minute. Then next to Dan is Jens Lang, and Jen participated in the Geography Bee, right, Jens? Okay. And to my immediate right, sporting this lovely green shirt that your group designed. You're so stand up a little bit. Can we see that shirt? The shirt says the Disco Chickens, and we'll talk about what that means, but the group designed that. Say hello to Braden Kraft from Destination Imagination. Welcome all. Congratulations for your achievements in these three groups. And we were talking a little earlier that a lot of our audience might not really know, as well as you know, what these groups are about. I mean, they might know what geography is. I get that. Jens, let's start with you and just tell us, what is Geography B?
Well,
it's like a contest, or is it a contest?
It's a contest.
Okay.
So in Geography B, each person gets asked questions about geography. And
are you timed? Is there like you have to answer right away or something?
you have to answer in 15 seconds.
Okay.
Which sounds fast, but really it's quite a long time.
And how do you prepare for geography? Do you look on atlases and study?
Yeah. I looked at a lot of maps, and also I got a book that's about every country in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of what about computer online? Is there a lot of help for you online studying?
Yeah, there are some online sites too.
And Braden Kraft, designer of the shirt. I'm going to lift this up and show the folks. Tell us a little bit about this. What are we looking at?
Well, this is from our DI competition. We built this structure, our team did, and you had a list of items that you could use, and you could pick from the list, and you could build a structure, and that was just one of the challenges. You pick a team challenge each year, and ours was structural. It could be a variety of technical, improvisational, structural, like I said.
And this is structural,
Yes.
obviously, very good.
Yes.
And we have a picture of your team here. So there's 6 of you. And then is it, like Jen's, is it a timed thing where like you have an hour to do this or something? How does it work?
Well, you get like 16 weeks,
Okay.
like 4 months, I think.
Oh, okay.
And our team met every Tuesday and Thursday, and we worked, and also we built the structure, and you also had to make a performance to integrate your structure into the performance.
Wow. So what did you do with the tower here?
Well, you put it on this pole, this structure tester.
Oh, yeah. See, folks, there's a hole in the center. Oop, there you go. So you put that on a pole. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then what?
And then you put a lid on it, and you have to put weights on. And this year, our structure held 375 pounds.
This did?
Yes. And there's like a pole to put the weights on. And then every time you put on 45 pounds, they put this little card on there, just paper, and it gives you an extra 50 pounds. So I think with the cards, it was over 700 pounds.
Oh my goodness. Well, it held up. That's
Yeah.
are those sticks? Is that bamboo or something? Or what is
bamboo
it?
skewers.
Is. Okay. Very nice. Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And it held together. And Dan, Knowledge Bowl. Now this is more of a head-to-head kind of competition with other schools, or not really?
A bit more of a head-to-head.
What do you do? It's a team effort or individual questions and answers?
Well, you can have a team of 4 or 5. I mean, you can go less, but it's not smart to. But you get 5 people for a written round. You have 50 minutes to answer 60 questions. And after you've completed that and they've graded it by putting it through a Scantron, that's what sets what room you're going to be in and who you're going to be competing against for the remainder of the competition.
Oh, so they try to match similar abilities or something, or?
Well, it's supposed to level the playing field a bit so that you're all where you're supposed to be in the ranking.
So that takes you into an actual competition.
That is the beginning step.
And is that when it gets to the competition, is that written also?
When you go to the competition, you are given scratch paper for math problems and various things like that. Also, it provides a silent means of communication with your team so that you're not giving away answers.
Okay, so you can't talk amongst yourselves to get the answer right.
You're able to, but depending on what kind of question it is and if you're first or last, it depends on if you're willing to give up answers.
Oh, so you're competing against each other on the team?
No, your team is all working together.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't understand
But you're trying
that.
to keep the other 2 teams from...
Oh, okay.
Because you're in close proximity, so you can
Okay.
hear each other talking.
Well, we have about a minute left. We have to give our folks at home the answers to some of our questions, and we have 2 quick geography B questions, our lightning round, folks. So let's take number 1. And are you going to help me out with this, Dan?
I'm
you
sure
think?
I can.
Okay, here we go. All alkaloids contain what element that acts as a base?
Nitrogen.
Ding! That's correct. The CIA-funded airline, Air America, ended its work in Asia in 1975 on a rooftop in what city?
The city was Saigon.
Ding! Correct. And our final Knowledge Bowl question, in terms of pi, P-I, what is the surface area of a 6-inch high cylinder with a 4-inch radius?
It is 80 pi. I misspoke earlier before we
Oh,
began.
okay.
Because when me and our coach went over it, we talked in terms of volume instead of surface area.
Okay, will the judges allow that, Ding? Oh, yeah, they'll allow it. Okay, great. You're our champion. Okay, fun, thanks. Geography B, now these, the math stuff, forget it for me, but the geography, we ought to do better on these. What is the capital of Libya, folks? What is the capital of Libya? All right, gents?
Tripoli.
Tripoli is absolutely correct. And our final quiz question, which country exports more coal, Australia or Japan? Which country exports more coal, Australia or Japan? What do you think? Gents?
Australia.
Australia is absolutely right. Thank you. Thank you to our panel, and thank you, Quizmasters at home. We don't have any questions because you already solved it by building this thing, Braden. Thank you all very much for joining us. We've run out of time. Braden Kraft, Jens Lang, and Dan Gould, and the advisor, Sonya Zieske from Albert Lea. Thank you so much, and continue your studies, okay? Keep building, all right? Thanks for joining us. And we'll be right back. Stay with us.
You can watch On Cue anytime by visiting the KSMQ TV website, ksmq.org.
Well, welcome back to On Cue. I'm Eric Olson, and this cavalcade of wonderful, gifted, intelligent students, young people from our area, continues here on Cue. We're going to move from creative work in sciences and intellectual to a different kind of intellect of the written word and the spoken word. A poet here in our very midst who's won quite a bit of acclaim in our region. We're going to talk about that and meet her. Taryn Sims from Austin. Hi. Welcome. And Ann Hokanson, director of the library here in Austin. Always good to have you here again.
Nice to see you.
And congratulations on what I understand is your 4th year of winning the Eberhart Poetry Contest.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. Talk a little bit about your writing of poetry. Have you done it since you can remember, or how did you start?
Actually, the first time I ever wrote poetry was in 4th grade, and my teacher gave us an assignment to write a poem about any animal of our choosing. So I picked an alligator, and I wrote this extensive poem, and it was my first time ever, and I spent hours on it. And she actually entered it into the Eberhart contest for me, and that was my first time winning with the first poem I ever wrote. And ever since then, poetry has just been kind of a passion for me. I love to read it, I love to write it. I love learning more and challenging myself and seeing what I can think of next.
Who are your favorites? I won't know many of the names, I'm sure, but who do you like to read when you're reading other people's work?
I love Sylvia Plath, Sharon Olds, William Carlos Williams. I like Shakespeare every once in a while. Let's see, Emily Dickinson. Billy Collins.
My goodness, quite a wide range there. Yeah. Is poetry, and now I know that the library isn't directly associated with the poetry contest, but as an art form, is poetry still as popular generally as it used to be?
I wouldn't say it's as popular as it used to be. People in the past, of course, would memorize poetry and use it as a way to express their thoughts and feelings, even quoting it to people. But I think it still lives on. I think it's a timeless expression of human experience. Certainly, some of our more modern poets really seem to focus on the natural world, our place in the world, and that resonates with people.
So about their experiences in the world, when you think of a subject to write on, does it just like come to you when you're in a certain mood or something, or do you think about a topic, like I'm going to write a poem about this picture, for instance, a poem we're going to hear you recite in just a few minutes?
No, actually, they do come to me over time. I tend to write about a lot of controversial topics, like abortion and racism and prostitution and family issues, and not that I have any experience with any of that, but I like to look at issues that we see around the world.
Oh, current events.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, this poem I'm going to read here soon was just more of a fun and just something for me to write for myself, less to capture people's attention. But there are times where I'll just take a look at the things around me and try to make something out of it so that it speaks to people and so that people can relate.
I've heard it said that writers need to focus themselves to write every day, or try to write something every day, because it's easy to not do it every day. Do you have a routine, or do you just go when the spirit moves you write?
I do try to write as often as I can, because it is good to force yourself to write even if you don't know what to write. I don't have a routine necessarily. Whenever I write my best pieces is usually just spontaneously. But I do try to write short stories and, short or long stories, and some poetry weekly, just to keep myself going, so I stay in touch with my writing.
Really?
Yep.
And do they get checked out, books in the library on poetry, or are most of them written or recited? Is it with the younger generation, is there poetry on audio, on CDs, or for download, more so than just reading it in books?
I think that there's both. Sometimes poets will use the physical page also as a way to express their poetry. Even where they put the words on the page will become part of the art of the poem. So I think that that's an important part, and the time and pacing of reading poetry, I think, is very personal, so that having it read out loud to you is a very different experience than reading it yourself. So we do have books of poetry both in the youth collection and in the adult collection. We collect some of the major poets, the poet laureate or the Minnesota poet laureate, but not very extensively, not much broader than that. A large print run for a poetry book now might be only 5,000 copies. So it's kind of a tough market.
So with that introduction, will you read one for us? What are you going to share with us today?
This is the poem that I won the Eberhardt with just a few weeks ago. I actually wrote it probably 2 years ago. But this is the piece I submitted this year, and it's called Lost in Time.
Lost in Time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Taryn Sims.
Okay. Isolation behind a window, trapped within a frame, a memory lost and faded, a moment without a name. The clock hands refuse to move, cast shadows remain in place, a young woman lost in thought, tension frozen on her face. Sitting in a diner, unaware of the candid shot, her body suggests defeat, her coffee no longer hot. It seems she wanted to leave, though she'd been there for a while. Now she's forever stuck in this photo. If only I'd captured her smile.
Wonderful. And now, did you know when you were writing this, did you think, I want to have this surprise at the end? Because that's so wonderful for me that you're hearing the story about this woman and blah, 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 and then, oh, it's a photo. Mm-hmm. It's like the little ha-ha at the end. Is that something you tried to put in?
When I started the poem, I don't think that was my initial intention, but as with most of my poetry, while I'm writing it, I can find little metaphors and little surprises to throw in there, and I think it just came to me as I was finishing the ending.
Do you interact with any other poets, like at conferences or readings, online?
Online I have. I've never gotten the opportunity to travel anywhere or go to any events that involve reading or hearing poetry, but online there's a few websites that I'm on that I post my work, and I'm able to read other people's work, and that's always very inspiring to be able to read poems from people from all over the world.
Would you share one more with us? Is that
Sure.
possible?
Yeah.
Before we head out here? What have you got?
I will read this one. I actually won the Eberhard with 2 years ago, and I wrote this after my summer trip to DC, and I went to the Holocaust Museum.
Oh, sure.
And so I wrote this a few months after going there. So this is called Holocaust Survivors. We are the shoes, the worn down shoes, stacked in mounds, getting higher each night. We are the hair that is no longer there, shaved from your head as you entered the site. We are the clothes, the tattered, worn clothes, wishing for nothing more than a bath. We are the toys of little girls and little boys, confiscated, our excuse for escaping the wrath. We are the ground, the pounded down ground you walked on every day as you worked. We are the trees that rustled in the breeze. We watched all the horror while we reluctantly lurked. We are the screams, the haunted lost screams, floating through the camps, wanting to rewind. We are the survivors that survived the barbed wire, never intending to leave you behind. We want you to know we're sorry.
Oh, that's a nice, and I don't know what form that is, but it's a nice little abrupt kind of ending. That's neat. Yeah, a lot of heartfelt emotion there. Did that come to you right as you were touring it? Did you say, I got to write something on this?
Kind of. I didn't exactly know what I was going to write, but I was so inspired by the emotion and the pain and suffering you could see through all the old photographs, and they have this enormous glass case with all the hair. That really, really stood out to me, and they had all the children's toys, and it was so extremely sad that I felt like I needed to write something. And I went there in June, and I didn't write this till November, so it took some time to think about it. But when I sat down, I wrote this in about 45 minutes, and I was able to get it all out. So,
well, and that's where art's there to help us identify our feelings.
Exactly. We can never tell exactly how that's going to connect with us and with other people.
Well, Ann Hokanson, thank you for coming in, and Taryn Sims, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I know you have College North Central in the cities. That's on your horizon as you finish out at Austin, so best of luck to you, and keep writing.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. We'll be right back with our Vision 2020 update. Don't go away.
Queue up your own comments for On Cue and send them to us at onq@ksmq.org. On Cue's Vision 2020 segment is brought to you by Hormel Foundation, Games People Play, and Turtle Creek Estates.
And welcome back to On Cue. I'm Eric Olson. Time now for our weekly look at Vision 2020. Dr. Dick Schindler joins us from the Bike Walk Trail Committee. Welcome.
Thank you.
And can we finally say that we can finally use trails and bikes? We have bicycles out. So exciting to talk about spring, and now we can, finally.
With it raining and snowing.
Yeah, no kidding. Although that hasn't really stopped you too much in your career. Do you bike all winter long?
Good part of it.
Yes, very good. Nice. And through Vision 2020 and other groups, you're promoting safety as well. And in your role, professional role as an ER doc, you have seen folks that don't wear helmets and the injuries they can have. That's such a simple thing. We see a lot more helmets, certainly in the decades, but it's still something that is very important and yet so simple.
Yes, and we really encourage helmets. We require all our club members to wear helmets, and we try and get the education out there. The police will be putting on a program at Ellis, just in the auditorium this spring, talking about bike safety, rules of the road. Bikers don't own the road. The kids think they do, and adults do too. And talking about head injuries. We this spring have a bike bash that we have had scheduled for the 4th of May, where we give away helmets for $5 copay for kids and $10 for adults. And we try and do that every year. We try and if we see kids on the street, the police try and talk to them about the wisdom of helmets.
Okay, and as we head out here, don't ride on the sidewalks, yes or no?
We like you to ride in the streets on the correct side.
With the traffic.
With the traffic.
Right?
Using hand signals, stopping at stop signs.
Well, thanks, Dick, so much for your service and for all this update. I can't wait to get out there and do a little pedaling.
I hope to see you there.
All right. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time on Cue.
On Cue is a production of KSMQ Television in Austin, nonprofit public television.